Salamat and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. And I won't spoil the details and nitty-gritty of this presentation because I know it's exciting speaker ang magpapresent. So before anything else, nagpapasalamat po ako sa lahat ng nandito ngayon in a very short notice. Nandito po kayo and we are very thankful for that. And I know we're all excited about this presentation. No? So I will start now. I will introduce our speaker. So our speaker for today is the founder and managing director of Future Gen International, combining business and tech to help their clients meet their business goals by converting big data and translating it into competitive advantage. Our speaker is also a graduate of administration and accountancy, magna cum laude at that, and a fourth placer in the CPA board exams. Wow. Our speaker is also technology columnist for Manila Bulletin, covering big data, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and technology events. Now I turn over to you, our speaker and presenter for today, Mr. Wilson Chua.
Thank you, Mai, and thank you, Mark, for organizing this for us. Let me do a sound check. Can you guys hear me clearly? All right, so this is my title slide. We'd like to present some of the findings and insights from using Facebook's data for good data set, right? So let me just share a bit of what we've done so far. So in the past, we've looked at dengue and we ask ourselves, how can we help communities battle dengue with the use of data? And we zeroed in on the use of satellite technology, specifically by using NDI and FAPAR measures to identify stagnant water. Now, this idea was taken by Doc Ligot of Serolytics, and he entered that into the NASA Global Space Challenge, where he won, their company won the global prize. Next, we also took a look at Philippine Internet and asked ourselves, what can we do to make Philippine Internet a bit more faster? And the end result of that is projectbus.org, where it's a mobile app, speed test mobile app that lets us collect internet data from all over the country. And for today, we also ask ourselves, what can we do for COVID using data? And the end result or end product is a travel map that I hope any LGU in the country can use. So the idea here is, if you know how to use a browser to do Facebook, you should be able to follow along all the steps that we're showing or sharing today. And so this is the 5-minute theory, condensed and simplified, about network graphs. So you see a bunch of circles with lines, right? Let me do a laser pointer. So imagine each circle represents a community of people. So you have one community here, you have one community here. And so let's give them some names. So you have community A that travels to this circle either for work or for school or just to go to the mall, right? Some circles are big and some circles are small. This denotes the size or the number of members in a community. Clear ba tayo so far? Are we okay? So you will see that communities, which are the circles, are connected by lines. So these are the travel routes, the migration patterns. It shows that the community A travels to this circle via this route. All right, clear tayo, ha? Now, we've all heard about, or the people with medical background, you've all heard about the R0, which is the reproductive number of COVID. And presently, it's anywhere between 1.6 to 1.8, which means that one person infected can infect 1.6 or 1.8 persons more. This is how fast it spreads. Now, the thing here is we will show that, let me call up a color, blue. Let us suppose that community A over here, let me change the color. Community A over here is the first one to get COVID. And for the sake of argument, let's say it takes 1 week for a community spread to reach the next nearby community. Okay, clear pa tayo so far, ano? So after 1 week, it will infect this node. All right, after 1 week, community A infected with COVID will infect this community in 1 week. So not too bad. But then what happens on the second week? By the second week, by definition of the algorithm, this node over here or this community will have then infected this node, and this node. So we are now on our second week. We are showing the progression of COVID week by week. Then we choose another color. So we are on our third week. By the third week, the community D will have spread it to their communities, and it will cross over to a major metropolitan area called, let's say, B. This is the third week. Now, let me use another color, dark green. On the fourth week, you will notice that COVID is now spreading to more communities faster because COVID now reached a major community or major urban area called B. Once it reaches B, by the next week, it will spread here, 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 and cross over to community E. This is now our fourth week. By the fifth week, it will have spread to this subcommunity cluster and this cluster. And on the sixth week, it will now have spread here, 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 and here. So if the original COVID hits A, it will take 6 weeks to spread all over our country, for example. And this is the same R0. Huh? We're not changing the R0 value. Now, what happens, though, if instead of A, COVID first lands here in B? Well, to save you, the shortcut is, I can show you, it will take only 3 weeks, not 6 weeks. So let me select a color. It will now take 3 weeks instead of 6 weeks. Now, why? Because once you hit a super spreader area like B, in the first week, it goes here, 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 and here. And here. So in the first week, it spreads to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 communities all at once. And what happens on the second week after that? From C, it will have spread to this community. And from E, it would have spread here, here. And from D, it would spread here, 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 and cross over to this other major metropolitan area. And this is the second week. And finally, on the third week, it spreads to A, here, and here. So we are showing here, one insight is that even if your R0 is constant, depending on how fortunate or unfortunate you are, depending on where it lands, which community it lands in first, you could either see a 6-week spread or a 3-week spread. Now, let me stop for a moment and clear everything and ask for insights. What other insights do you see happening here? Especially if we assume that this area is NCR. This area is Luzon. This area is Mindanao. This area is Visayas. And this area is BARMM. Good afternoon pala din kay Sir Franz Felipe from Ilocos Norte and Sir Wilfredo Lorenzo, Sir Willie from Ilocos Norte. So let me ask you, good afternoon guys. So a bit of a two-way sharing. I've shown you what we call a network graph map that where the nodes again represents communities or areas, no? And depending on how well connected a community is, we can show that COVID could spread even faster depending on where it starts off first, right? But what other insights might we generate from such a graph analytics way of thinking? Don't be shy. Sir Franz, Grace, all my friends here. Let me highlight the importance of timely intervention. We showed earlier on that if COVID lands in community A, it takes 6 weeks for this one to spread all over to this point, right? But what happens if this community over here is very proactive and the first cases in community A triggers this community to block off contact between A and X? You can see clearly that because this community here took timely intervention, the infected persons in A do not get to reach this one. And so with timely intervention, we are able to limit the spread and give LGUs enough breathing time, no, to prepare. Like some LGUs would have time to prepare more isolation beds, to get more vaccines. And speaking of vaccines, remember, let's say this is NCR. The vaccine strategy seems to be that everybody gets vaccines. Although the vaccines are limited, so everybody just gets a few percent of the vaccine, 5% or 10% or 20%. I put it to you, to all the officers and gentlemen and ladies in today's presentation, that maybe we need to concentrate all the vaccines in this area. You know why? Because if this area is fully vaccinated, no matter where the COVID starts off, it cannot cross B. And if it cannot cross B, it cannot spread to the other half. So in case it starts in community E, it can only spread to C, but cannot spread to D or A by virtue of being blocked by D.
Wilson?
Yes, Ma'am Grace.
Yeah. When you say that yung sa B is blocked, is it only because of the vaccine or by virtue of, as in physical border controls or the airports,
Yes.
not having flights? Is it or is it a combination?
Good point, Grace. It should be a combination. Vaccine alone should be combined with social distancing, face mask, and everything. What we're saying here also is assuming everybody gets to wear face masks, face shields, hygiene, distancing, means for chance of getting less infected people by concentrating all the vaccines in the major metropolitan area like B.
Yeah. Oh, kasi I remember in the news
Mhm.
I think it was the other day, that the NCR mayor said that they are near their target vaccination rate for their population. Parang, if I'm not mistaken, it's more than 80% now for all NCR cities. So
No.
are we going to see a trend, downward trend from here on?
I think they lowered their targets to 50% of the 70% original target. So instead
Okay.
of
I
targeting,
agree with Wilson.
yeah. So
It's lower.
I think they were not targeting herd immunity anymore. They were targeting herd protection. So that's just 50% of the 70%. Now, to give you in context, Singapore has just reached 80% of population yesterday. And still, even with 80% vaccination, we still see clusters of community cluster cases popping up here. Thanks for the question, Grace. I hope it also encourages others to join in and don't be embarrassed, or don't be scared to embarrass me. You know, ask me the questions because sometimes it triggers better ideas. So, you guys ready for the next slide, or do you still have questions here at this slide?
I think there is
Yeah.
from Z Umag in the chat.
I don't see the chat. Okay. Can you?
Yes, ang sabi niya po is, yes, considering that there are breakthrough infections as well among vaccinated, although pouring vaccines in one area might help, but there will be equity issues as well, especially on the background of community
Yes.
everywhere.
So all I'm doing is presenting the data. Public policy, of course, that I leave it up to the government officials. No, all I'm saying is, if you look at the data and you look at the patterns of transmission of travel, like I will show you later, it makes more sense to concentrate on B or on NCR in this case. Yeah, but obviously it's a matter of equity. So it's hard being a politician to balance all these competing demands. Right, Mark?
Yes, very hard, very difficult to choose
So
these things.
so I'm saying, as a data analyst, I'm presenting the data, you know, and so I'm trying to divorce myself from the on the ground physical emotions, obviously. So let's move on. So this is what I'd like to share with you. Okay, if you have your mobile phones, you can use the QR code. Or if you have your web browser, you can enter that URL. This URL, enter it into your browser. It will take you to this page, and I'd like you to click here. So this is the travel map dashboard. I update this every Friday on a weekly basis. So the travel patterns are updated every Friday morning. So if we're all good, or you can take a screenshot so you can go back to this link later. If we're all good, let's start with this one. As you know, the country announced on July 31st that they were going to lock down NCR effective August 6th. Now, also you can read that Okta Research did say that they wanted the country NCR to be locked down as early, or if not earlier, by August 1. Now, I'm going to share with you what we see with the data as to the effect of that lockdown. No? So if you go to the link, you will see the 2D map. If you click on the 2D map, starting region, instead of all, we just select the national capital region. So we can show all the travel from NCR, and the destination region is every other region. So we're going to show all the travel coming out of NCR over here, and where did it go to? This is
Excuse me, Wilson, can we give a little background? How are we able to get the travel data?
thank you, Mark, for that remark. Yes. Sorry, sometimes I assume everybody knows what I'm doing. So I was part of research for Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Administration here in Singapore, and as such, I was granted access by Facebook into a data set. They call it the Facebook Data for Good. So what Facebook does is every time you travel, right, and you use Facebook or probably WhatsApp and Instagram, they know your location. And they note your location during the day, and they note your location at around in the afternoon, and then again in midnight. And so if you aggregate all of those, you can see mass migration patterns all over the country. And not only for Philippines, I'm also using it to look into Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. And so I'm trying to see in Asia Pacific, are there commonalities, similarities, or differences in culture that could explain either why one country is doing better or worse than other countries? And so I downloaded those data and then plotted it on Tableau, which is the tool I use. But Tableau is expensive. And so what we do is we publish the results into a desktop dashboard, as you see here, so that the fruits of our labor can be useful for LGUs without having to invest in a Tableau desktop license. So what you see here, everything here is a web published to Tableau public. And all these points this is starting and ending, starting and ending. Starting and ending points. Mark, did I answer your question, or do I?
No, very well. I just wanted to give everyone a background of how what this is about and where the data is coming from for better understanding.
Yes, thank you, Mark. Also, you will note that it's color coded. No? So you will note the lines are sometimes red and sometimes green. Now, for simplification purposes, a red line means that the amount of travel has increased compared to pre-pandemic levels. If you see a green line, it means that the amount of travel has actually decreased, or it's actually lower compared to pre-pandemic levels. All right, so that is the Z-score over here. Okay, so the Z-score, technically speaking, for mathematicians in our webinar today, measures the how many standard deviations from the mean of the pre-pandemic levels. So when you see a Z-score of 4, it means that the travel from one area to another area with a Z-score of 4 has 4 standard deviations, is 4 standard deviations away from the mean of the pre-pandemic levels. So I know it's oversimplification, but I think of it like a Z-score of 4 means 4 times more travel. A Z-score of -4 means 4 times less the travel volume. So those are what these colors mean over here. Okay. Now, the items over here are what we call filter options. So once you load the dashboard, you will have options to select what sort of data you want to see. So for example, si Sir Willie ng Ilocos Norte and si Sir Franz, because they're from Ilocos Norte, they may want to see starting position is all, but the destination region, they may want to only select region 1. So they will see all the travel from all the Philippines into Region 1. Where are they coming from? Right? Let me pause a bit over here to ask if I'm clear enough. And we can move on to the next.
Clear enough.
Okay, so thank you. So what we need to show you here is that during the period August 1 to 6, there was massive movement of people away from NCR. How massive? This is how massive it is. Remember, I think NCR now is around what, 15 million population or 4. I'm not updated with the statistics. But you will notice NCR region actually lost 10% of its population density during these 6 days. And where did it go to? It went to Northern Mindanao with 46% increase in population density. Davao region, 47%. Eastern Visayas, 45%. Bicol region, 44%. BARMM, 41%. Now, I've struggled with how we can visualize the movement data. And so let me share with you a video recording of the each dot here represents a destination. So Metro Manila is somewhere here. Okay. Now you will see the date. Right now it's August 25. But when I start to play this, let me see how I can play this. Okay, it's now playing. So we're now in July 26. Notice by around this time, Metro Manila is starting to travel less. You can see more green. Even in Gensan, down here, it's starting to go green. Davao is starting to go green. Parts of Cagayan de Oro is starting to go green. So green is good. It means people are not traveling as more. But notice in the BARMM region, it's all red. And a bit of green, of course, but it's mostly red. Even in Ilocos Norte, you see a bit of green over here. These are the areas affected by COVID Delta. And that ends the animation showing the travel patterns from, I think, May to August 25. And if I can... Did you notice that up to and until May 21 or 22nd, most of the maps was green. And then something happened on May 22nd. And immediately it's as if everybody decided to go out and travel. Immediately after May 22, maybe you guys can help me out here. What happened May 22 that caused a lot of people to just, you know, just go out and travel a lot. We see a lot of travel patterns. Anyway, maybe it will come to you and you can share. So I have a comment from Z Umag to everyone. The same pattern of migration we had during the first lockdown of March 2020. Yes. So now what we found is we can immediately use the Facebook data for good as a means for, as a additional tool that can be used by LGUs to monitor their border patrols. So I can say for like in Pangasinan, we were closely coordinating with the provincial authorities there, and they really had very good records, and we were reconciling records between Facebook and their border control. And for the most measure, it matches. Like where there were supposed to be tighter restrictions, you see less people, except in one very notable area. So up in Pangasinan, there's a resort town called Bolinao. Remember, during this later period, Pangasinan is supposed to have tighter travel restrictions. And yet we still see a lot of travel into Bolinao. If you look at the border records, it doesn't show a lot of travel. So I don't know if RD is here. RD is from tarana.ph. So we reconciled, we also exchanged notes with them. And for those that don't know, tarana.ph is the one official travel paper. If you want to travel as a tourist into Region 1, you register with tarana.ph. And so they did confirm what we're seeing in the data, that Bolinao is by far the #1 travel destination in the entire Region 1. So we're seeing here that there is a lot of travel going to Bolinao that is not on the books of the Border Patrol. And so again, this data can now help ensure that Border Patrol records jive with what we see online. So that is the slide there. And so now we go to the meat of the matter. Previously, you just saw the dots. So the dots just show you the number of arrivals. It doesn't show you where the arrivals come from. So now we overlaid this map with lines. So each of the lines show a starting and ending position. Each dot may have several lines going into it, which means that the travelers arriving at that particular destination comes from different areas. Remember the travel pattern. So let me just highlight a few points. We know that Cagayan de Oro, somewhere here, you can see travel patterns going here, Iligan, all the way to Pagadian. All right. Jensan, you see travel patterns from Jensan to Sultan Kudarat, Takurong, and from here it goes to Cotabato, somewhere here. You see this line? And the sad fact about Cotabato is not only does it receive inbound travelers from a known Delta variant area like Jensan, but also it receives travelers from Davao, another Delta variant, going all the way here. From Davao, you can see travel patterns going here, here, and here, heading towards Bukidnon. Now, Bukidnon itself is sandwiched between Cagayan de Oro and Davao. And we see travel patterns between Cagayan de Oro going to Bukidnon. Butuan City is somewhere over here. And so remember that travel pattern, because what we will now show you is a series of maps showing the progression of suspected Delta areas over number of weeks. So this first map shows you the combined cases from weeks 13, 14, and 15. Data is from the DOH data drop. So what we're doing here is simply asking ourselves, show us all the areas where there are a lot of COVID cases involving younger people aged 19 years and below. So the moment it reaches, I think, 150, it will turn red. The moment it starts to be green is around, I think the cutoff is about 30. So when you see areas with lighter green, it's around 20, 30 children. Darker green is a bit higher, 40, 50. But when you see red, it's about 150. Okay, so these are the areas with initial COVID. Now take note that at the time, the DOH only confirmed Cagayan de Oro and Davao. But this was confirmed, I think, late July or early August. Take note of the week. This is week 13. So as early as March, there are already initial signs that Delta variant has arrived in Mindanao. So the next question is, if it arrives here and knowing the travel patterns here, where is it going to hit next? So again, these are the initial sites. And this is the succeeding week. So the earlier slide was 10, 11, 12. Now we move a few weeks forward, week 20, 21, and 22. And we see that now the areas have started to spread. So the areas in orange that I shaded are areas that were predicted based on the travel migration routes. The areas in green were also predicted, but were not supported by the DOH data. Now take note, however, that in some of these green areas, the test positivity ratio is above 30. So it means that these areas are not testing enough. So I'm not really sure that the prediction is way off mark. It could be that official records do not bear the presence of Delta, but it does not mean there's no Delta in those areas. So again, we look at the travel patterns for week 20, 21, and 22. These are the travel patterns. And you can see almost picture them as dominoes. As one domino in one area falls, it will trigger the fall in the next nearby area. Any questions as of this point, Mark?
From the chat group, they're really interested in the predictions that you're doing. So you're semi-answering the questions now.
Okay. Sometimes I thank you. You know, Mark, do me a favor. If there are questions, you know, just ask them.
Yes.
If there are questions on the chat, just ask them, and let's just be interactive. And wag kayong mahiya. You know, I wanna be interactive, and I also wanna learn how we can make the dashboard better for you guys to use.
Yes.
So again,
everyone will be able to access this dashboard and help policies and decision making for your areas, your own areas.
Correct. I'm not sure if I can show this. Let me see. Okay. Hindi na lang. Mamaya na lang later. But you could drill down by just using your mouse wheel. You can drill down to more detail. No, that's the beauty of this dashboard. And although we're only showing Mindanao, the dashboard is really for the entire Philippines. So any LGU, let's say from Naga, Quezon, Quezon City, would be able to use this for their own data sets. The other thing to note also is we're wondering, because we saw a lot of migration from NCR landing in Lanao del Sur. And so here you can see here, these are some areas. I'm not familiar with these areas. How come there's a lot of arrivals in Malabang, Lanao del Sur? Anybody can tell me why this area is particularly popular? Anyway, the way to see this is on the same dashboard. You click on top destination tab, and then you can select the destination region. In this case, I selected the ARMM. Sorry, that's not yet updated.
Yes. For the LDS, Lanao del Sur, I'm actually trying to cross-check that also because a lot of people are going there. And in fact, our COS, the Chief of Staff for the Office of RAS, just went there earlier, and I'm teasing her about the data. She's adding to the data, I said.
Could be. So now the area of concern here is if there's a lot of people going there and they're coming from Delta ravaged communities, they might be bringing Delta to that community as well. So we see that if that were true, so again, you can go and refer to where is Malabang in this area, in this map. So I know this is Lanao del Norte, so it should be somewhere here, Malabang. So that is Malabang.
Yeah.
There. So what you want to do is try to see the lines and connect them to where they're coming from. If they're like intra Lanao del Norte or Marawi, I'm not overly concerned. But if they're coming from Cagayan de Oro, General Santos, Davao, Bukidnon, Pagadian, these are areas that now have red spots this week.
Sir Wilson.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Sa comment section po about regarding the Malabang. According to MPRAS, Malabang is a center town, one of the oldest municipalities in Mindanao. And then one comment also said that it is one of the highly commercial area in Lanao. And Malabang is somewhere between Marawi and Cotabato City.
Right. Thank you. I think I saw it here. Can you see where my laser pointer is?
Yes.
So we're seeing a lot of travel into this area for the weeks 32, 33, and 34. Again, the nice thing about this dashboard is you can choose also the week. So as we update the charts, as we update the data from Facebook, you should see weeks 36, 37, 38, 39, and so on as we move on, right? And so you can see how the migration patterns are being affected by either the lack of COVID or the presence of COVID. So now we go to another demo. So what I just showed you is the 2D.
Wilson, Mary Joy is raising her hand. Maybe she has a question.
Mary Joy, go. You're on mute. I'm asking to unmute.
Yeah. Mary Joy? Anyway, we can continue first.
Okay. So now you will notice that the dashboard has a tab for 3D map view, right? What I was displaying or sharing with you was the 2D map view. This is a 3D map view. It adds additional functionality. And so let me show you. So this is the you click on 3D, you will be brought here. So right now this 2D view, you click on this one here to set it to 3D. And then the width of the brushes are too big, so I adjust this here. So the brushes are smaller. You can rotate on 360, 3-axis. You can zoom in, zoom out, and you can see the travel pattern as arcs rather than straight lines. You can also filter. So in this case, I just want to show you all the travel to ARMM. So we get rid of all the lines that do not end in the ARMM or BARMM region. Also, when you hover over each line, it should show you additional details. So red denotes the start of the travel, and green denotes the end or the destination of the travel. So at each point, you know where people are coming from.
So
Of
we can
particular,
also see that the airports play an important role in this.
I'm not sure where the airports are.
Well, you have Cagayan de Oro,
Yeah.
Jensan. Well, Cotabato also has.
So we see travel. We're not sure how they're traveling from one place to the other. It could be by land or by air.
Thailand also, yeah.
Yeah. So here I'm starting to add more regions. So as you can see, as I start to add more regions, there are more lines. And you can see more interconnections. So this is a nice visualization tool for us to show to your decision makers, like, Mayor, we need to have stricter border control between X area and X area. Notice also that I forgot to add the destination city. So not to worry, you can click on that and click destination city. And it should be form part of the pop-up label. You should now see the destination city when you hover over a line. Again, this tool is free. And for as long as I have access to the Facebook data set for good, I will keep on updating this so we can see the travel patterns on a weekly basis. I cannot guarantee that my access to Facebook will be forever and ever.
Didn't they make it public already? I meant sort of public.
They made the population public, but
Population only.
the population. So the thing I showed you a while back where the population of NCR was reduced by as much as 13%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
13%.
Yeah. So now here, what I'm showing you is the Z-score can also be filtered. So if you only want to see all the travels that have increased by 4, those are all the travels that have increased by 4 times compared to the pre-pandemic levels. Still a lot. So you can see that Mindanao is a very vibrant region in terms of travel, which is good for commerce, but maybe not so good for handling or limiting the spread of COVID. And if there are lessons to be had with the Spanish flu of 1918, the longer we can delay the onset of the virus into a community, the less fatal it will be for the community. So the longer we can delay the onset or arrival of the virus, let's say, instead of having it now, you can have it 1 year later, increases the chance that it will not be as fatal as what we're seeing today. So that is also one of the reasons why we need to act fast. We need to be decisive and proactive. And so that ends the simulation of how you can access the travel maps that we've made public. One thing also I'd like to share with you is this practice from the city of Manila. This is also being done in Singapore. Whenever there's a known cluster, the governments in Singapore and the city of Manila will announce to the public the hot zones clusters. Like in this case, in the city of Manila, they're saying there's a cluster in Malate Bayview Mansion and Hop-In Hotel. So, this serves double purpose. It announces to the public to avoid these areas in the meantime so as not to be part of the spread. And it also incentivizes business establishments to up their game, to improve their COVID countermeasures, right? So I think this is a good practice. I'm not sure if it will violate any data privacy laws or e-commerce laws or whatnot, but I think it's a good use of data for people to be informed whenever there is a cluster. And that ends my presentation. I'd like to thank you and also invite you tonight. There is a webinar by Tita Jing. Tita Jing was formerly of ABS-CBN TV journalist, with Dr. Beverly Ho from the DOH. Tonight, they're talking about polio. Polio is also another viral disease that was supposed to be eradicated, but somehow it's gaining. There are some cases in Mindanao and somewhere in Central Luzon as well. So if you have time, kindly share with your colleagues as well to drop by and join the discussion 5:30 tonight, this afternoon. And that ends my presentation. Thank you, Mark.
Wilson, can we summarize for them how to access the dashboard? There's some latecomers kasi.
Okay.
Through the motion lang.
Yeah. Let me end my presentation and see if I have the. Can you see my browser?
Yes.
Okay. So if you go to our website or you click on the QR code, there's a click here link. If you click here, you will be taken to this page, which is actually this page. So I have the 3D map in view. I can zoom out. And so on a zoom out basis, I can also hover, rotate, and on 2 axes, right? Something also strange. You know what? Not only are people coming from Manila and going to Mindanao, there are of travel coming from Mindoro. Oriental Mindoro.
Yeah, straight
from Sablayan going into Zamboanga, and the other one is from, let me see now, Sablayan going into Cagayan de Oro. Now, I wonder what would people be doing, because normally the travel pattern for people from the north is to pass through Manila first, and from Manila goes to the south. Very rare do I see something like this. Lawag straight to Misamis Oriental. So we have friends from Ilocos Norte Provincial LGU. Maybe they can give us a clue as to why we are seeing people traveling from Ilocos Norte going to Misamis Oriental over here. Yeah. Any question on this tab? Because this a heavy tab, once you go out of this and you go back, it takes time for it to regenerate because of the tons of data inside that.
Sir Wilson, Sir Wilson?
Yes, sir.
We see that yung mga data and destination are cities. Po ba, meron po ba yan mas lesser? Ibig sabihin kung ang interest mo lang is yung area mo, barangay level or talagang cities level?
Actually, let me answer first by saying that because of data privacy issues, Facebook will not give us the granular down to the barangay level. So what they do is, alam nyo yung mga tuldok na yan, yung tuldok na yan is actually the center of a square tile. So I don't know if you can see, square tiles. The tile, that point here actually represents an area like this, square area like this. So it's not actually city. So some points may actually have a city name overall, but it actually comprises of travel between that city and nearby municipalities that are within that square tile. Good question.
What is the square tile? What's the measurement approximately?
I will have to get back to you. I don't want to give you the wrong information. Pero parang how many, let's say 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer, but it's more than that. It's larger than that.
Okay. But that's pretty specific na, ha?
Oh, it's good enough at the provincial level so that if there's a provincial and regional level, so that if the ministers want to say, okay, we want to make sure that there are proper border controls, you can see the movement of people na. And it can be a good counter check or cross check or validation with your border control measures. Without even really going to the site and cross check, you can now see it online.
Yes.
So any questions on this one before we go to the other ones? So yung kaninang nakikita natin travel animation is this one, but because of the massive data, sometimes mag-error out ito. Okay. I'd like to point out that you can do filters. So let's say right now the starting region is anywhere in the Philippines, but let's say we want to only see travel from Cebu. Cebu is Central Visayas, am I correct, Mark?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the only travel from, yan no, kikita mo kaagad.
Wow.
Known travel from the Central Visayas region into the Mindanao area. So I'm Siquijor, so I assume this is travel by boat. Tagbilaran, Panglao to Cagayan de Oro. So probably airport to airport.
Yes.
Yeah. So you can do a lot of things here. So for example, Lawag. No? Let's say, so starting region is any, but destination, I just want to see region 1. So this is the travel by region 1.
Wow.
Right? So you can do a lot of mixing and matching, right? And these are only the travel that have increased in travel volume because we are using a positive C-score.
Yes.
If we want to look at everything, we handle the slider bar to the left. So this is everything. This is the travel, all travels, whether or not they increase in volume or they decreased in volume. Now, what is interesting is if we hold destination region to be anything but the source starting region to be NCR, you can see the travel patterns ng NCR. This is why if NCR gets infected with Delta or the newer C1.2.7 variant and it hits Metro Manila, it will rapidly spread to all these areas because there are people traveling. And as we say, this virus is not carried by mosquitoes. It's carried by human beings. Right? What else? Here also, you can click this one to do full screen if you want to have a bigger screen.
You can save the data also, right? I meant the
sorry, Mark?
You can save a certain area also, right? There's a share or download button.
Yes, yes. You can download the data that is part of this dashboard. Sir Ryan ng Ilocos Norte, I did not see. Let us go back. Ang tanong, the travel from, there's a question from Ilocos Norte. Was the travel from Mindanao going to Ilocos or it's the other way around? So let us see, huh? This is the step. We click on this up arrow and filter. We want the destination region to be region 1. Yeah, so because notice here, the source is red, the target is green. So it came from Misamis Oriental, Medina, and it landed in Ilocos Norte. So somebody from Mindanao went and landed in Lawag. Okay. Let me see if there are more
For the
questions. Mhm.
Yeah, for the ministries and everyone, especially DRRM or the Ministry of Health, if you have questions, please ask them.
Yes, I'd be happy to share what I know.
Sir Wilson, there's a question from Mr. Lorenzo.
Mhm.
I think this was semi-answered na kanina, but I will just read. Sir Wilson, can we anticipate or predict where the COVID Delta variant will strike next using the travel pattern visualization you presented? Thank you very much.
Yeah, so
The predictive area.
so because we know the travel patterns, we know where people are traveling from one area to another, and makikita mo people are just hopping from point to point. And here, ito problema because Tuguegarao is a known area of with Delta. We see travel from Tuguegarao going to where is this? Let me add
Lawag.
Lawag. Let me add a destination city and probably a destination barangay. Now, it doesn't mean that the people actually arrive in that barangay. It just means that the center of that tile is in that barangay.
Yes.
Okay, so here, now that we've added it, starting city is in Igig. Starting barangay name is Bayo. Destination Region 1 city is Lawag, and destination barangay number 53, Rioeng. Tama ba yun, Sir Wilfred? Tama ba yung
Sir, Barangay Riweng.
Riweng? Yan. So what it means is if we go here and we zoom in, ito yan. This area, this is the tile area that is measured by this point. So yeah, if you take a look at it, kasi I don't have the time to look at all the spots in the country. That's why I wanted to share with the LGUs that are most concerned. If you look at it carefully, you will see the patterns. Like you will see short hops, people traveling intra-province from one municipality to another. But principally, you will also notice that the travel is along the seashore, seaside. Kasi bundok na ito eh. So, what do we predict? If Ilocos still is having problems or issues with Delta, and it still is being shared, it will fall like dominoes from one point to another until it reaches Bigan. And then once it reaches Vigan, it will fall like dominoes until it reaches Candon. And then from Candon, it will reach San Fernando. But here is the interesting thing. Once it reaches La Union, it can go to Baguio or Pangasinan. And you can look at the dense number of travel patterns. Once it reaches Pangasinan, yari na tayo. But here also notice that even if we add Region 1, Region 2, and Region 3, makikita most of their travel, ends in either Metro Manila or Calabar Zone. Bibihira lang yung nakikita mong ganyan, no? And these are people going into Region 1. Because red means they are the source. But people traveling from regions 1, 2, and 3, they stay within Luzon mostly. So those are some insights na if no one asks, I don't bother to look at it in detail. So it's really up to mga local officers to take a close look, and then they can decide for themselves. Just play around with the records Again, if this is a clutter, you have several ways of decluttering, right? Like here, I added a filter. So there are a lot of fields. Like for example, I know we have, did I add the period? Okay. So again, Facebook measures 3 times a day. So if you wanted to only see the measures at 8 in the morning, because this is US time, so yung zero niya plus 8 mo, that is 8 in the morning. So these are all the travels during the day. And these are all the travels. These are all the travels at around the afternoon time. And this is the travel at night. So you can even see the period of travel.
Pushing it near me.
Sorry?
There's another question. Are there assumptions needed to be considered in making predictions and making policy decisions? I think the question relies more on, as a data analyst, analyst expert, what are the considerations?
That is an excellent question from Mr. Umag.
Yes.
Yes. Number one, Facebook can only track people with Facebook account and mobile phones. So not everyone, not everyone has a Facebook account, and not everyone
is recorded here.
Yes, yes. So what you're seeing here are only the movement of people with Facebook and mobile phones. But thankfully, what we're saying is there's enough people that this is a very good proxy of the actual volume of travel. So that is one of the assumptions that we need to know.
But it's a good assumption because more than half of the population uses Facebook and have mobile phones.
Well, from the latest survey, I think it's above 90%.
Yes.
There would be regional differences. Like in BRMM, I'm looking at the reports from Project Bus, and I do know that mobile internet is not as good as, let's say, in Metro Manila. So,
that was my next question, actually. The connectivity affects this, right?
Correct. So
lag in data or something.
So you will see that there are no, I don't know if that is a great segue.
There's did you ever put a filter on the most connected cities related to the not so connected cities, and how's the data comparison? No, that's just a curiosity.
Kindly explain.
No, I meant, for example, yung data dun sa mga merong connectivity na okay compared to the areas na hindi masyado connected. Were we able to compare data?
That's a great idea. I haven't overlaid Project Bus cell site tower, although we have that information. But sad to say, for BARMM, we do not have enough volunteers to say that we have suyud the area. What's suyud in English?
Actually, that's the segue also. I want to invite everyone from BARMM to download the app BAS project to help us monitor how's the connectivity, because it will help push for better connections in the area.
Thank you. Yes. Please do. It's a free app, and every measure you take helps us and helps the telcos also improve on their service. Now, going back to the question you will notice, like in this map, okay, here is a big black area. You know why? Because this is the Sierra Madre Mountain na ito. Walang cell site dito. And so we are not able to track, let's say, NPA or rebels dito. Walang cell site.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's shift the focus back to ARMM. Yeah.
Sir Wilson,
Yes, Ma'am Mai.
Um, to our colleagues in the OCD, Office of Civil Defense, I think
Mhm,
Mirna and Director Ray, do you have any
mhm.
questions po? Feel
Ang
free-
MSU, si Ma'am Janice has a question. Si Ma'am Janice Wade is
Pero
with
just
prediction.
OCD.
OCD muna. Sige, OCD muna.
Sige po.
Ayan po. This from Ma'am Mirna po, from OCD. Does dashboard able to identify vaccinated people thinking outside the box?
Alam mo, that is an excellent question. Kasi matagal na namin hinahunting ang DOH kung kailan nila ipapublish ang vaccination data nila. Notice they publish the COVID cases, they publish the facilities, they publish the test aggregate results, but there is no raw level data for vaccination. What the DOH publicizes is the aggregate 28% na for, let's say, Metro Manila. Yun lang. That is of no use to us as data analyst, no? But if BARMM as a group can send me your data, I can overlay it on top of that map. So you can see areas with high or little vaccination, whatever the case may be. It can go to as detailed as barangay level. So we can show a map. You can imagine this, barangay level detail, color-coded din. Red for areas between 0 and 5% vaccination, and green for areas that have, let's say, 70 and above vaccination rates. So in one chart, you can see movement, you can see vaccination. Yeah. If you provide the data, we can overlay it.
Yes, this talk was to also gather people to help gather data kasi we're really lacking in data.
Ang concern ko lang talaga, we can still see a lot of movement in the BARMM region. And that coupled with the fact that the TPR, test positivity rate, in some areas of Mindanao, exceeds 60%. Ang ibig sabihin, malaki yung undetected community sa areang yan. And so I'm really concerned for you guys in Mindanao.
Wilson, they will be able to contact you naman, or at least through the office of RAS or anything like that. We can gather the questions
Yes,
to help.
Yes, Mark. Yeah.
Yes,
This is advocacy for us. And we also learn by interacting with government officials, because I have no idea what you guys need to make your job easier. You have to tell me, Wilson, this is what I need. And we're just happy to help. If we have the data or you provide the data, we'll be happy to visualize it for you. And this is not even prediction. Hindi pa natin ginagamitan ito ng machine learning or AI. This is just simple visual. Tinitignan mo lang saan pumupunta yung mga tao, and then nakikita mo na week on week, wherever people are moving to, that is also being followed by cases of COVID weeks later down the road.
Sir Wilson, we go back to the question of Professor Wade.
Yes, ma'am.
Sabi niya, ang tanong niya is, with prediction, is it vital that we assume that persons traveling, especially coming from infected areas, are having COVID-19?
Can you say that again? I want to make sure that I understood the question correctly. With prediction,
Is it vital that we assume that persons traveling, especially coming from infected areas, are having COVID-19?
mahirap din po sabihin. All we're saying is, if you're traveling from a area known to have Delta variant or any other variant, there's a higher probability that you may be bringing it with you. Because remember, the spread is done mainly by people that are asymptomatic. It is not like other diseases where you have fever. You may be not feeling anything, but you're already carrying the virus. That is the problem with this COVID. And so you cannot really be sure. Now, having said that as well, I can share with you some other from other data points, like in Google. Google also have their data point, and they tell us that in the Philippines, there are 5 common places where people gather during lockdowns, and these are places where you buy food, like grocery, supermarket, wet markets, pharmacies where you buy medicines, transit stations. And so if I were an LGU and I have limited testing, ang isang idea dito is to use sewer testing. So imagine this. You have a palengke. Ano ba yung palengke sa wet market, no? You have a wet market with, let's say, 200 people, 200 merchants, 200 sellers, right? Normally, you would need to test all those 200, and so you would have to spend 200 RT-PCR tests. Now, that's expensive. But all those 200 will have to use the toilet sooner or later within the day. And if one of them carries the virus, you can check for it in the sewer water. And for that, you only spend 1 RT-PCR test.
Yes.
Right? I think that's an excellent and efficient strategy.
Actually, I don't think nagkaroon ng ganun na testing sa Philippines masyado. Pero I'm wondering also why.
I've talked to Dr. Edsel Salvana about this. No, sabi niya, that's perfect for communities where konti pa lang yung cases. But when there's community spread na, useless na yung ganun. Kasi you can never, the wet market will never be free of COVID when you test the sewer because of the sheer numbers. So it works for communities that are still virgin. It helps you be ahead of the curve, kumbaga.
Dr. Bansao is raising his hand.
Hi, Doc. Nakamute ata kayo, Doc. Hindi ko marinig eh. Doc, nakamute kayo. Yan.
Hello, yes.
Yes.
Ayan, there.
This is Dr. Bruce Bansao, President of the Filipino Muslim Chamber of Commerce and Industry. My question is addressed to the Honorable Guest Speaker on matters pertaining to the Delta variant as well as the COVID-19. I am in wondering as to why some local officials are forcing and requiring their constituents to get through the vaccination process, considering the fact that some do not want to be vaccinated by invoking their constitutional rights under the Bill of Rights of the 1987 Constitution. My question is there any law or policies crafted by the House of Representatives or the Philippine Senate requiring all local officials to let their constituents to get through under vaccination process?
Dr. Bansao, that's a matter of public policy and legislation of which I am a newbie and I'm not a qualified expert to comment on that. Maybe there are attendees in this webinar that could share their point of view.
Okay. Sige, salamat po, sir.
Anybody wants to answer the policy side? The ministers.
Legislation eh. It's for policy.
Well, we'll take note po, Dr. Bansao, of your question and send that to our legis experts and we'll get back to you.
Okay, salamat po, sir.
Okay,
There's a
Mike.
question, Mai. MP has.
From MP Hassan, Sir Wilson, Deputy
Yes, go ahead.
MP Hassan. Do you have data of any transmission of the virus brought by some of deportees from Sabah, Malaysia to Zamboanga City and the other island provinces in BARM?
I can see some travel from Sabah to Tawi-Tawi, Sulu, Basilan, but that's what the data shows, travel. As to whether or not these people have COVID, we cannot say. So I think it's up to the local authorities in that region to do better border control, because Malaysia is also not doing well right now in terms of COVID. Especially Sabah, I heard it's suffering a lot from COVID.
Do we have filter, Wilson? For example, Sabah or general Malaysia to BARM? Can we do a filter like that, or hindi kasama sa dashboard ngayon?
Hindi ko sinama. I have the data for the entire Malaysia, but to add it here, it would really
Yes.
the data set would be too large that it would be unworkable for the dashboard to work. Matagal na mag-load masyado, no? But let me see what I can do later. Let's take this offline, Mark, no? I suspect you'd like to know is,
The flow of Malaysia to BARM.
Correct. And from the map you can see ang isang magandang area dito, Palawan. We don't see a lot of travel from the rest of the Philippines into Palawan. So they're a separate community by themselves. Yun. I'll take a look into that, Mark.
Yes.
Later. Yeah.
Sir Wilson?
Yes, Sir Ras.
Opo. Yung kasi 'di ba meron tayong mga kasama from DRRM, then meron from ministries, then MSU, then if ever, kasi syempre first time na introduce to, if ever they decides na we want to try this, work on it, then baka maging part ng systems namin, can they get in touch with you also? So para maka-develop sila ng mechanisms on how to explore this.
Yes po. As a matter of fact, last week I showed the same system to some officials of the DOTR, Department of Transportation, because although we developed the travel maps for COVID purposes, it turns out that it can also be used to plan for transport networks. If you see a lot of people moving from one city to another city, it may be time to, let's say, expand the road network or put in a rail network. So those are the things that this map is actually multi-purpose. You can use it for a lot of things, not only for COVID or health. Yeah. But of course, yes. So Sir Ras, ang pakiusap ko lang, try nila na mag-explore nung dashboard. Experiment, explore. I think that because we've shown how to use it, it would be easier for them to take a hang of it, and just know that I update this dashboard every Friday in the morning. Yan. Naka-raise ng hand si Dr. Bruce. Baka may gustong itanong, Mai?
That was earlier na po.
Earlier. Yeah.
And anybody else with question? What we can do also, MP Ras, is we can compile the questions or interested parties via your office, siguro, and then we can set up a schedule with Wilson and them.
Yeah. And so, Mark, also you commented that there's a download link. Here's the download link, if you can see, sa baba. If you click on that, you can download the image, cross-tab, PDF, PowerPoint, or the Tableau. So let's see what happens. Let's do a larger image and then just click on the image. We should get this image. So very easy for report generation. Tagal lang, sorry. Are there questions we can answer while we're waiting for the screen to render? For some reason, it defaults to San Francisco every time you load this map. Yeah.
Is anybody else doing this? I noticed that the Gupan is doing something similar now.
Yeah,
You shared something, di ba?
Yeah, the Gupan is my hometown, and so whether they like it or not, I want to share. It's my hometown. You will have to use it. Yun. Teka, bakit hindi select your format? May bug siguro ito sa image. Yeah. Ayan, meron na BD map. So let's see what it looks like. Ay, iba yung na-save niya. Anyway, play around with it and see what it can do. Yung sa 2D is more for analytics. The 3D is more for visual. So ito na yung analytics. One thing I forgot to share with you is layers. Yan. So if you click on this layer, you can take out layers. So this one will take out all the lines. This one will take out all the dots. And this one will take out all the younger cases maps. So you can do layer by layer. So let's say you just want the dots. You can select that layer only. And so here are all the filter. Here you can say, I just want you to show me all the travels that have generated more traffic. And you just hit that, wait a while, and the map will regenerate. So this is that one. And then you can also select which date you want. Here is 34. You can say, I want to see week 30.
Sorry, nawala ako dun. The weeks are counted when you say week 31, week 32. That's a Gregorian calendar week 31 or?
Yeah.
Or 31 of the lockdown?
No.
The Gregorian.
Gregorian. So January 1 is week 1. So you can see the progression of travel week by week. So let's see if it will get this image na, huh? Yeah, 2D map. There you go.
Wow, okay.
Right, and then you can plug it into your PowerPoint and to show to your local executive or boss, this is the what's happening now. So yeah, you can zoom into any level that you want.
There's a question now by Z Umag. Basically, these visualizations provide travel patterns, but this will have to be overlaid to other data and info. Yes. How will low testing and delayed genomic sequencing result affect the prediction that these data sets can provide?
Here's the answer. So I did my own formula so that because some areas like in Cotabato, we know that the test positivity rate is very high, but it's not showing a lot of cases. No? So we incorporated the formula to incorporate the test positivity rate and the population as it stands now to come up with these shaded areas. So parang I call this personally my delta risk, average delta probability. Ito yan. So if it's red na red, halos confirmed. The idea here being that genomic testing to confirm delta takes a long time, 1 week to a month, depending on where you are. If you were to rely on the official channel, too late na. By the time the confirmation comes in, 3 weeks may have gone by, and you would have lost the chance to have timely intervention. So what we do, since the DOH data is pretty much updated by 1 or 2 days late, we use that data to calculate a delta probability. So a case in point was General Santos. We saw this earlier on and we said our delta risk probability for General Santos very high. But at that time, DOH did not yet confirm the presence of delta in General Santos. They did so a few days later. So we know that more or less, Delta variant kasi has this unique characteristic of affecting younger people. So yun yung signal na kinuha namin for the parang prediction. So magaganda yung mga tanong ni Mr. Umag. So I assume he is well-versed in data science as well. So we factor that in as well. And as I said, if BARMM has data of your own, I need only to have GPS coordinates. Yun lang ang kailangan kong parang anchor value. So I know where to place that data value. And if you were to use barangay names, please lang para madali ang trabaho ko, use the PhilGIS nomenclature. Meron yang standard coding eh. Per barangay, may code yung barangay na yan. Use that code para ima-match namin. Mas madali ang trabaho.
That's the other point pala, Wilson. I think for certain areas like BARM, we need to recheck kasi they did from ARM to BARM, iba na yung boundaries and everything. So
yes, correct.
Iba na yung naming din minsan. So maybe we can do a list. Part of my personal advocacy naman is to correct these things.
Alam mo lang, what is stopping me is some of the data ng DOH is still using the old.
Yes.
The old nomenclature. So if I were to update the BARMM to what is actually now, kaya makita mo ARMM pa siya eh. Mawawala yung link to the DOH data naman.
Yes. Actually, yun yung problem in the developer side, the programming side. Ang dami nating old data from the post office to everything. Tapos hindi bago yung data eh.
Correct.
Actually, to ask about that, Sir Wilson, yung ARMM dun sa ating mga tabs and hindi sabi ko, I thought hindi siya updated but it was actually linked pala sa DOH kaya ganun pa rin yung
Yun, kasi opo, yun yung dahilan nun. Although alam ko na dapat BARMM na, if I change that from the region name to the province name to the city to the barangay, hindi na, magugulo na. Kaya for all intents and purposes, yan na yon yung ARMM, yun na yung BARMM. Yun na lang muna. Oo.
That's for now. Baka kasi may mag-react.
Can I also take the opportunity to learn something from Marawi since I see some representatives from Marawi? Kumusta po ang COVID situation on the ground in Marawi?
Si Professor Wade siguro, MSU.
Marawi RRMO is still connecting the audio. It's Ask Marawi CDRRMO. Meron po? Or Professor Wade? Anyone po?
Sorry, I cannot give exact detail. I am not in the position to do so. I am not in the health, so I cannot tell.
Okay.
Sorry po.
Okay lang, ma'am. The reason for my question. Kasi hindi siya, not enough numbers are showing up for Marawi. But if you look at the travel patterns, maraming pupuntang Marawi eh. Yan, yan ang travel pattern.
Sir, siguro because the data coming from is through Facebook.
Correct.
So one of the problem is siguro the connectivity issues. Talagang mahina yung connectivity.
No, ma'am. We
So
see a lot of
madidetect?
we see a lot of people here coming from
yeah,
Cagayan de
traveling.
Oro, traveling from Cagayan de Oro, going into Marawi. And if you zoom in here, you can see connections, dense connections here. And so I would expect na Marawi would be hit with Delta. But it doesn't show up on DOH maps eh. Yun yung ano ko. So, yun lang naman.
Hindi natin alam yung I do not know with the report na DOH. So
kasi the other side,
parang puno na yung hospital.
The other side of it is maybe the reason why it's not showing up on DOH is because your local government executive there in that region has some special technique or gimmick that help protect their citizens. And either way, we would like to find out. So these are what we call outliers na by right, I think they would be hit by COVID spike by now, but they are not according to the data, no? According to DOH data. So what are they doing right? Assuming the data is correct. Kasi either the data is wrong and they are suffering a spike, or the data is correct and their chief executive did something right. And if their chief executive did something right, now that is a good chance or opportunity to learn and adapt and copy and paste to other cities.
Yes.
Di ba? Baka meron silang kinakain na herb na very effective, hindi natin alam.
And we would like to know.
Yeah.
Raising his hand. I think it's with connection with your question.
Ay, sige po.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay. Sir, I'm just wondering kung ano yung measure nyo for the Delta. You mentioned earlier about looking at or data about younger population being hit with COVID. Since we know that yung genomic sequencing is a bit, I'm not sure if we can rely on it since sampling lang yun. And of course, the delay, the time of delay that yung of the results. So, what made you say po na wala pang Delta in Marawi when by virtue of yung data po ng younger population, wala po ba sila nun? Sorry, I don't have the data.
So let's say if we take out the... So yes, so my formula is to look at the number of cases whose age are 19 years and below. And then we plus a factor for the TPR, the test positivity rate, by and multiply that by a factor that involves the population. No? So in this case, hindi siya lumalabas sa delta risk probability maps ko kasi the result of that calculation falls below my cutoff of I think 30.
There's a comment also, I think that APMC in Marawi is accepting patients already from nearby areas with Delta variant.
Delta variants.
So I think either DOH once again is not updating the raw data or wala tayo nakukuhang data from that area. Yun yung problem.
Hindi, yung sa APMC kasi usually they provide their data to Region 10 because APMC is under Region 10.
Region 10 is Northern Mindanao.
Cagayan de Oro.
Kasi APMC is under that DOH.
So doon napupunta yung data.
Yes.
No, but the data of DOH where we base it, the data coming from DOH will have the residents. No, so kahit na ni-report nila sa Northern Mindanao, the residents of that patient will be the one that we use in our calculations. So I think it's either the data is delayed or the data is underreported or not reported, or somewhere down the chain of transmission may issue, or the local executive there is doing something exceedingly well.
Pero yung current situation with APMC, most of the Delta variant patients comes from Iligan and nearby areas.
Yeah, no, this is, if you can see this is Iligan, no?
Yes.
Tingnan mo yung sentro din sa Iligan, no? From Iligan, it goes everywhere else. So having that at least gives the chief executive a visual eye-level view of why cases are spreading from one area to another. And so if you know how the travel patterns are, you can slow it down. Diba?
Ayan.
Non-medical intervention.
Yes. We will slowly wrap this up. What we want to do also is, if certain ministries like the Ministry of Health or DRRM wants to have Wilson consult with them, we can set that up. Just contact Office of MP Mitmug or Mai, who's the host for this, and
Thank
then
you, Mai.
we will schedule everything.
Yeah.
I know there are a lot more questions, a lot more revelations, pero we don't want to take up too much time of Sir Wilson also. Yeah. So let's slowly wrap this up, Mai.
Yes. Okay. Mr. Umag, are you satisfied with the answer of Sir Wilson, or do you have any other questions or additional info? Sir Umag? Okay.
So, Mai.
Sir Wilson Chua for his very informative presentation. Again, as said by Sir Mark, if our ministries and other agencies would like to tap Mr. Wilson, you could contact us. If we could facilitate your programs or any seminar that you would like to have. Just contact us. Madali naman kaming mahanap. Our request pala ni M. Piras, picture to cap the presentation. So we would like to ask our participants to show your face reveal tayo para may picture. Admin,
okay.
Face reveal tayo, Sir Wilson. Admin pa picture. There's admin. Sir
Sige. I'm just waiting for everyone to have a photo. I meant so 2 screens ito. I'm doing the first one. I'm waiting for Marawi, CDRRMO at saka Mabel. Okay, first set. 1, 2, 3. About to do the second set. Okay. Second set, 1, 2, 3. Yan.
Good?
Good.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you to all our participants from the academe, from the LGUs, from ministries, bar ministries, pati yung nasa norte. Meron tayong mga participants. Thank you for coming and attending in a very short notice. And of course, thank you to Mr. Wilson Chua. And we are looking forward to another amazing presentation and webinar with all of you. Sana sa ulitin we could have you also here and be with us. Thank you, thank you.
Ay, shout out to Sir Achi Atienza.
Oh,
Hi, Achi.
If you have
Ngayon ko lang napansin. Sa ano siya? Si Achi sa Globe Telecoms.
okay. May Globe Telecom pala tayo dito na participant. So again, if you have any questions, you can email us at mail@rasmeetmug.com. Again, to facilitate webinars or trainings to be... hello, MP Hassan. Nandiyan pa si MP Hassan. Hello. Segue lang, no? To facilitate it. So thank you very much again, and assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you. Bye. Thank you, Sir Wilson.